ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على النبي الأمي المكي المدني الهاشمي الذي اسمه في السماء بأحمد وفي الأراضين بأبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الأطيبين الأطهرين، سيما أولهم أمير المؤمنين وآخرهم بقية الله في الأراضين. روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء، ورحمة الله على محبيهم ومواليهم وشيعتهم أجمعين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم ملعونين. أما بعد, for the happiness of Hazrat Zahra Marziyah, for the enlightenment of the graves of your marhumin, of the graves of the Shahada, Ulama and Siddiqeen, for the safety of the followers of Ahl al-Bayt around the world, and for the safety and the hastening of the reappearance of Hazrat Baqiyatullah al-A'zam Arwahun al-Fida, please recite your loudest salawat. There's a lot more people in this room than that salawat would indicate. Secondly, while I was reciting the khutbah, I saw some brothers come and tell you brothers to move forward, and you totally ignored them. So maybe if I ask you, you may listen. So if you just stand up and walk forward, please don't make me call out what you're wearing, and because I don't really know your name, sir. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa rigal salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The Majlis of Sayyid al-Shuhada is often said that it is a school, a university, where we reform ourselves. And in reality, Sayyid al-Shuhada himself, his very purpose was that, reformation, revival, to reform that which had been lost. In his letter to his brother Muhammad Hanafiya, the famous line, young and old know it, وإنما خرجت لطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي أريد أن آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر وأصير بسيرة جدي وأبي علي بن أبي طالب. I've come out in order to seek reform in the ummah of my grandfather. How? Through amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar, and by walking upon the path of my grandfather and my father. There are many different lessons that we can take from it, but the one that is more pertinent to this is Islah, reformation, to awaken a nation that had fallen into immorality and degradation, and to take them to a height. Because the role of the Hujjah of Allah is that He will guide you towards that which is truth. And the only truth that is in this world is Allah. There is no other haqq. Haqq is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The purpose of the human being is to gain ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this journey towards Him, has created certain portals in this world. Portals that take you from where you are to proximity with Him. From a point, from a lowly place to a place where you are amongst the Illiyin, amongst the highest of the high. Nights, months, lands, individuals. They take you towards this proximity that is rizq in reality. See, rizq, we usually think that it's something to eat, but it's not just that. In the famous dua of the Imam of our time, it begins, Allahumma rzuqni tawfiq al-ta'ah. Oh Allah, give me tawfiq, give me the rizq of what? Of obedience towards you. Give me the rizq, bless me with the sustenance of obedience. Wa tawfiq al-ta'ah. Or we say in Ziyarat Ashura, Allahumma rzuqni shafa'at al-Husayn yawm al-wurud. Oh Allah, bestow upon me the rizq of the shafa'ah of Abi Abdullah yawm al-wurud, on the day of judgment. But there are certain times, as I said, certain places where this rizq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is more pronounced, is more prominent. For example, the holy month of Ramadan. It's one of those portals towards the divine grace. An individual in the holy month of Ramadan, were they to recite one ayah of the Quran, it has the thawab of reciting a whole Quran. It's a portal. It takes someone from one place to another place in relation to God extremely quickly. Then amongst the holy month of Ramadan are Layali al-Qadr, the nights of Qadr, which you all know, Laylatul Qadr khayrun min alf al-shahr. The night of Qadr is greater than 1,000 months. It's greater than even those 1,000, but the Quran is just placing it in context for an individual. Khayrun min alf al-shahr. It's greater than 1,000 months. Meaning whatever you do on that night, you times it by 1,000 months. You go from one place to another. It's about 82 years. Imagine reciting 2 rakat salah on that night, but the reward of it and your progression within yourself spiritually is as if you had recited that salah for 1,000 months consistently. So it's one of those portals. There are certain days of the week that are portals towards the divine grace. Thursday night is a night of dua. Is the night where the doors of the heavens are open, the angels descend upon the earth, and one can access the divine grace much more readily. This night in Mufatih, the night of Saturday, is also the same as the night of Friday. So Thursday, Saturday. These two nights are the nights of dua. So there's certain portals. Then there are lands which are portals that take one from one place to another. Masjid al-Haram, Mecca, is one of those portals. There's an interesting narration that one day the land of Mecca, in pride, called out that where is there the equivalent to me? For I am the land upon which the house of God has been built. The land of Karbala called out, be quiet, for I am the land within which the Hujjah is buried. Lands differ. The land of Karbala is one of those unique portals towards Allah. That the very earth there is shifa'ah. The earth of that land will cure your ailments. Just being in the vicinity will aid you on that journey. One of the wives of the Prophet saw the Holy Prophet laying down with Abi Abdullah on his chest. And he was kissing him. And so she said to him, that why is it that you love this grandson of yours so much? The Holy Prophet said, because he is dear to me. He will give everything in the way of this religion. He will be killed and buried in a land known as Karbala. And whoever goes to visit him will be given the reward equivalent to one of my Hajj, the Hajj of the Prophet. Aisha, the wife of the Prophet, shocked, says, one Hajj of yours? The Holy Prophet says, no, 2. She says 2, he says 4. She says 4, he says 8. It continues until he goes to 99 Hajj of me, the Prophet of God. The reward you get for visiting Abi Abdullah in Karbala. Why is it that Hussein is so dear? What is it that made the land of Karbala that place that 20 years prior Amir al-Mu'mineen is coming back from the battle of Siffin? He stops in that land, he dismounts from his horse, he picks up a handful of the earth, he smells it, and he says, how lucky are you, O earth, for the greatest of men shall shed their blood upon you. And then he begins to cry. Salla raq'atain. He recites 2 raq'at salah there in the land of Karbala. And then he walks around the land, and it is here that they shall be killed. And it is here they shall be buried. But Amir al-Mu'mineen is still close to the time. Musa alayhi salam, Ibrahim alayhi salam. In Khasa'is al-Husayniyya, Sheikh Ja'far al-Shushtari, he brings all the riwayat about the prophets of God that entered the land of Karbala and what happened to them. At one point, they say Ibrahim alayhi salam was walking through the land of Karbala. He tripped, he fell, he hurt his head. It began to bleed. He called out, Ya Allah, did I do something wrong? Because you know, bala for the awliya and for the lovers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the mu'mineen, bala for those individuals in this world where you fall ill or you get hurt, it is a blessing. It is a blessing upon the believer, for it is penance for his sins. So Ibrahim alayhi salam says, Ya Allah, did I do something wrong that you are punishing me for it by making me fall over and hurt my head? Allah replies, Ibrahim, no, you didn't do anything wrong. Ibrahim, this is the land of Karbala. and the greatest of men shall shed their blood upon it. And you are my Khalil. I desired that your blood should also be mixed into this earth. Karbala is no small event. These majalis that you are attending is no small cultural event. You have been brought here. You have been given tawfiq to be here. It is these gatherings that even the angels of heaven desire to be in. The narration says that wherever the majlis of Imam al-Hussein is happening, the angels come down to the earth in their thousands. And we will discuss the angels in the coming nights and the matter and the nature of angels. But they come in their thousands. In droves they come down to the earth to attend the majlis. And when the majlis is finished, they rub their backs and themselves against the walls of that Husayniyah for shifa. When they return back to heaven, the other angels say to them that there is a smell coming from you so fragrant that we have not smelt it on any of the other angels. Where is it that you went? And they reply, we're returning from earth, having attended the majlis of Imam al-Hussein. Understand where you are. You sit in one of those portals towards Allah. What you take away from these majalis depends very much on you and your own capacity. There are some that are invited to majlis, but they will stand outside in the car park. Their tawfiq only extends to the car park. They won't come inside and listen to the azan. There are others whose tawfiq extends to coming inside of the majlis, but they may just sit in the majlis and talk to the person next to them and not benefit from it. But to some extent in that gathering, they are gaining something. And those that are talking to their friends next to them didn't even hear that point. So some will only have tawfiq to that level. There are others that will only attend the majlis of Abi Abdullah to eat the niyaz. All because they know someone is sponsoring it and they do good niyaz. But that's not a bad thing either, because there's shifa'ah in the niyaz of Abi Abdullah. And so their level of attaining the rizq of Imam al-Hussein, of that closeness to Allah, extends only as far as food. And it shall give them that which they desire, that which is the shifa'ah that they chase. There are those that come to the majlis of Imam al-Hussein only to sit and talk with their friends, and they will be given that. There are those who come to the majlis and they cry for Imam al-Hussein. They cry. They hear about the musibah of Imam al-Hussein. Simply just the name of Abi Abdullah brings a tear to their eye. And the narration says one tear crying for Imam al-Hussein, يُحُتُّ الذُّنُوبُ الْعِظَامِ, it will consume every single one of your sins, like fire consumes dried wood. And so they will come and they will cry and they will have their sins forgiven, and that is their capacity. I mean, we're going to think, oh, all my sins forgiven. I mean, can't go wrong with that. But there are levels. Some come only for that. Then above that, there are those that come to the majlis, have ma'rifah of the Imam, and then cry for him. Not just cry for him, because when one gains ma'rifah of the Imam, it changes from crying to buka, to wailing loudly. And the narration says, "Man baka ala al-Husayn arifan bihaqqihi." The one that cries, wails over Imam al-Hussein, knowing the right of Imam al-Hussein, wajibat lahu al-Jannah. Jannah becomes wajib upon him. So some will come to this gathering and they will gain Jannah from it. But that's only the level of their capacity. But then there are those who seek not heaven, but proximity to the beloved. In the same way Imam al-Hussein sought proximity to his beloved. And I will repeat this poem possibly 3 or 4 times throughout this ashra. And that is when he left, and you've heard it from me before, when he left with over 300 or so wounds on his body, when he came to the battlefield, his Ali Akbar is gone, his Qasim is gone, his Abbas is gone, his Ali Asghar has been slaughtered. There is none left by his side. For a moment he sits up on his horse, he looks up towards the heavens. إلهي تركت الخلق طرا في هواك وأيتمت الأيال لكي أراك وإن قطعتني بالحب إربا إربا لما للفؤاد إلى السواك. My Lord, I have left the whole of creation for your sake. إلهي هب لي كمال الانقطاع إليك وأنر أبصار قلوبنا بضياء نظرها إليك. Munajat Sha'baniya of Imam Ali says, my Lord, Ilahi habli kamal al-inqita'u ilayk. My Lord, take me to the peak of cutting off from all those and all those things that seek to distract me from you, and allow the eyes of my heart to pierce through the curtains that separate me from you until I reach and I gaze upon the divine light. If you want to see the living example, then that is Karbala. Ilahi taraktul khalqa turran fi hawaka. My Lord, I've left the whole of creation for your sake. وَإِتَمْتُ الْأَيَالَ لِكَيْ أَرَاكَ. I've orphaned my children so that I may see you. وَإِنْ قَطَّعْتَنِي بِالْحُبِّ إِرَبًا إِرَبًا. And even if the swords were to come and cut me in your love to pieces, لِمَا لِلْفُؤَادُ إِلَى السِّوَاكَ. My heart would turn to none but you. And so this is why when he says this, the beloved replies, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbika radiyatan mardiyya. O the content soul, return to your Lord in the state that you are satisfied with him, for he is satisfied with your servitude. وَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي فَادْخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي وَادْخُلِي جَنَّتِي. And so enter into my servants and enter into my heaven. This my heaven is not the heaven of gardens and rivers and hur. This my heaven is the heaven of proximity to the beloved. And so, depending on an individual's capacity to take the divine grace via Imam al-Hussein within their wujud, it depends. That then tells us how much they will ascend in these first 10 nights. These first 10 nights are a portal towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They can raise you to heights that you could not imagine. There are sirr, there are secrets in these nights. If you were to unlock them, you would change your life forever. But you need to increase your capacity. Someone comes to the sixth Imam, he says to him, Ya Ibn Rasulillah, teach me the Ism A'adham. Teach me the greatest name of God. The name of God that you use, it can allow you to walk on water, walk through the air, anything. But it's not just knowing the name. See, the Ism A'adham, the only way the Ism A'adham works is when that divine name has become one with your very nature. When you manifest that name through your actions, does everything in existence become subservient to you? So he says to the Imam, teach me the Ism A'adham of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imam says to him, there is a bridge, I want you to go and sit next to it. It's a task before I tell you. So he goes to the location that the Imam has told him, and he sits by this thin bridge. Only one person can pass over it. As he's sitting there, there's an old man walking, carrying on his back firewood, old, hunched over, and he's walking slowly over this bridge. All of a sudden, someone from the desert comes riding out, a young man on a horse in an extreme hurry. As he also gets onto the bridge, he realizes there's this slow old man in front of me. Needs to get past. He says, hurry up. The old man is old. How can he hurry? So he takes his whip and he whips him. Still, the old man can't move fast. So he takes his foot out of the stirrup of the horse and he kicks the old man. And the man falls, dropping all his sticks. This young man rides off on the horse. The old man slowly picks up those sticks, ties them together again, puts them on his back and carries on. When this companion of the Imam returns to Imam as-Sadiq, Imam says, tell me, what is it that you saw? He says, there was an old man who gives the Imam the story. And he says, Imam says to him that, and if you had the Ism A'adham of Allah, the greatest name of God, what would you have done with it? He says, I would have used it to get justice for the old man. We would have done the same, right? Make sure we get payback. Says, I would have used it to teach that young man a lesson, to get vengeance on that young man. Imam al-Sadiq looks at him, says, you know, the old man, he was one of our close companions, and he has the Ism A'zam. He has the Ism A'zam. But with it, he has the capacity and the understanding of how and when to utilize it. These majalis are the same. If you increase your capacity and you open your minds, you will gain something, not from me, but from the very air. See, when tomorrow the first night sets in, those that are the people of the hearts will feel the change in the air. Those that are the people of Ma'rifah will realize that something has changed, because the whole of existence is mourning Abu Abdullah. Every atom, and we will explain in the coming nights the role of the Hujjah. For our topic until the day of Ashura is an analysis of Ziyarat Jami'a Kabira of Imam al-Hadi, which is one of the greatest descriptions of the true maqam that has been given to Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam. But it requires a capacity. Sharh al-Sadr. You hear at the start of every lecture, everyone who comes on, every Mawlana, Rabbi Shrah li Sadri, the dua of Nabi Musa. Oh Allah, expand my chest. Allah says to, the adhan's a bit late. Allah says to the Holy Prophet in the Holy Quran, Alam nashrah laka sadrak? Did we not expand your chest? This expansion of the chest is not going from a 44-inch chest to a 46 to a 48 because I've been benching 120 at the gym. This expansion of the chest is the spiritual expansion. To be able to bear the realities. And we're not talking about, our perception of reality, what we consider to be real talk. All of these guys, everybody wants to be an influencer nowadays. Or if not, then I want to be a life coach, because I know how to do life, and I'm going to teach you all how to do life as well. Recite salawat, please. It's indicative of a spiritual disease as well. That we think that, it's a trend. Every time I open it, someone's doing some sort of live, any social media platform I open, someone's doing a live telling you how to improve your life. But the Quran, Ahlul Bayt, they've already told us. But, anyway, so the realities that are manifest, they're right in front of us, but we don't perceive them. The realities of these first 10 nights, we don't understand them. We'll go about our daily business. Generally, life is disrupted, and it's great. It's disrupted for these 10 nights. But some, it's business as usual for them. What is ironic that the Bukhara community today, or yesterday, the Da'i announced, the Sayyidina, the head of the Bahura community, he announced that for the next 10 nights this year, no Bahura will open their business as a mark of the remembrance of Imam al-Hussein, as a mark of remembrance of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Ajab. It's about ma'rifah. It's about understanding. What is our capacity? We need to be able to increase that capacity to be able to gain the realities that are here. There are some that go to Karbala year in, year out. They stand by the dome, stand under the dome, they stand next to the Darih, but yet they don't hear a reply. They say salam, but they don't hear a reply. And we say that I bear witness that you are hearing, that you are seeing everything that I am doing. Then why don't I hear the reply? Because there is no capacity for the reply to come. See, those that have the capacity, Ayatollah Muqaddas Ardubeli, it is recommended that when one goes to Karbala, they don't stay any more than 3 days. Any more than 3 days. Because Imam al-Hussein, when he brought the land from Bani Asad, he said to them that I buy this, but I'm gifting it back to you. I will be killed, I will be buried here. The only thing that I ask from you is that this will become a place of ziyarah. When my za'irs come, you take care of them. And for 3 days, you feed them and house them. And so the ulama, from that 3 days, they say that it is better that one does not stay more than 3 days in Karbala. And if they want to, then stay for 3 days, leave, go Najaf, go Samarra, go wherever, then come back to Karbala, so that Karbala doesn't become common for you. You see, those that go to Karbala year in and year out, each year, the vast majority, not everyone, but the vast majority, each year they become more and more desensitized to the land of Karbala. They don't have the same fervor that they had on the first time they went. They don't have the same connection. They don't have the same passion. Because they go, but they don't expand their capacity. They don't. And how do I expand this capacity? By pondering, by changing my life. I go to Karbala, and I'm all holy in the land of Karbala. I'm making sure I'm, all dressed nice and black, sharakri, everything, whatever, I'm there. All holy like. And it's amazing. You go on ziyarah to some people, you're like, whoa, this guy's amazing. And then you come and meet them back in the UK, and you're like, oh, so this is how you live here. I thought you were super holy. But that's the reality. People go there, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm going to be holy, I'm going to change my life and whatever. And they dress in a certain way and they act in a certain way. But then the moment they leave, they come back and that's it. They're in Karbala, they wear hijab, they leave the land of Karbala, whoop, there it goes. Why? Because it has just become a joke for us. We don't believe. Because if I believed, I would change. And if I changed each year, there would be something new that I got from these majalis. But the fact that I'm still stuck in the same rut that I have been stuck in for 10 years, for 15 years, without progressing, without seeing that which is hidden, shows me that I'm just paying lip service to this religion. Just paying lip service to the deen. When the people of Maarif go into the land of Karbala, Ayatollah Muqaddas Ardubili, he would go by foot from Najaf. Now it's become fashionable to walk. Nowadays, you tell people, oh, I went on ziyarah to Karbala. Oh, did you do the walk? What about my dhari? What about my ziyarat? What about? And then if they get over the walk, they're like, did you touch it? Touch what? The dhari. Like all of a sudden there's magical powers attached to the touching of the dhari. I'll elbow everyone in the face to make sure that I am the one that touches the dhari. What is that ziyarat? Why is it that we do it? Because we lack ma'rifah. The religion's a joke to us. Nonetheless, Ayatollah Muqaddas Ardubili rahmatullah alayh, he would walk to Karbala. But he would never stay more than a day. And he would never sleep in the land of Karbala either. And they asked him, that why is it that you don't sleep in Karbala? Why only one night? He says, many years ago, I stayed a night. I tried to sleep, but in the night I could hear the wails of Zainab alayha salam. The people of Ma'rifah, they see and they hear in that land. Those that have capacity. Others just go for fun. It's the reality. Now it's Arba'in, you go to Arba'in? Yeah, we'll hook up in Arba'in. What hotel you staying in? Yeah, I'll come see you. We'll get some good selfies in front of the Zari. Looking sad, obviously, because Bainul Haramain, sad. Karbala, right? We don't have that capacity. And so these ayyam are about increasing that capacity to be able to take the divine grace through the hujjah of Allah. If you can do that, make an intention that you will change. From tomorrow, every single day, if not until Arba'in, just these first 10 nights, recite one Ziyarat-e Ashura every day. If you can't do the 100 salam and the 100 la'an, it's no problem. Just recite one Ziyarat Ashura and see what difference it brings. See what realities unfold for you. But at the same time as reciting that, make sure that you make the intention that you will change. Because Imam Hussein gave too much to this religion to not have me change. What is it that he gave? What was left for him to give? He gave everything. After a 6-month-old child, then what else remains? And I do a great disservice to Imam al-Hussein when I claim to be Husseini, but I don't follow the wajibat of the deen. I claim to be a lover of Imam Hussein, but I don't pray. I don't observe hijab. I listen to music. I do all of this haram that hurts the heart of my Imam. How will I face him? How how will I look towards my Imam? How will I look him in the eye? Sayyid al-Shuhada gave everything for this deen. The first in the long line of sacrifices was leaving his beloved Medina. Imam al-Hussein comes. When he's made the intention to leave Medina, he comes to the grave of Rasulullah. He begins to cry. He lays himself on the grave. Crying, he falls asleep. In his dream, he sees Rasulullah. He addresses his grandfather, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Jaddah, ضمني في هذا القبر. Oh my grandfather, take me inside this grave with you. I have no desire to return back to the world. These people are taking this Medina from me. They're forcing me out. The Holy Prophet says to him, Hussein, know there is a place for you in Jannah that you cannot achieve illa bish-shahada, except through martyrdom. He wakes up. He leaves the grave of the Prophet. And then he goes to that grave, that lonely grave of that individual that was buried in the night. The night that Ali buried in the night. For Fatima, hiya Laylatul Qadr. Fatima is Laylatul Qadr, the hadith says. And so Ali buried his night in the night. Imam Hussein goes to the grave of his mother. I don't know what was said between mother and son, but having to leave the grave of his mother, those thoughts going through the mind of Abi Abdullah. Maybe he thought of that day in Medina, of those nights in Medina where his mother would call out, صُبَّتْ عَلَيَّ مَصَائِبٌ لَوْ أَنَّهَا صُبَّتْ عَلَى الْأَيَّامَ سِرْنَ لَيَالِيَ. That were these sorrows that have befallen me, were they to fall upon the brightest of days, surely they would become the darkest of nights. What were those sorrows that befell Zahra? What were those sorrows that befell her? Her father died, and the Muslims came to her door. They didn't come to offer condolences to her. Otherwise, why would they have brought fire and wood to her door? She stood with them at the door, pleading with them. They said, open the door, send out Ali, or else we will burn down the door. She said that this is the door of Wahi. This is the door where the Prophet of Allah would send salam. Will you burn down this door? They said, by Allah, we will burn it down. Zahra standing behind the door, pleading with them. One of them sets fire to the door. The other, he kicks open the door. When the door opens, Zahra crushed between the wall and the door, she calls out, Ya Abata, oh father. He says, when I realized Zahra was behind the door, I pushed even harder until I heard her scream. She fell to the ground. They entered the house. They tied ropes around the neck of Ali. They dragged him out from the house. As Amirul Mu'mineen is being dragged out, again Zahra stands stands in the way. She says, let go of Ali, let Ali go. Then he turns to his slave, he says, Konfadh, what are you waiting for? Move Zahra out of the way. He comes forward, he slaps Zahra. Zahra alayha salam falls on the ground. He takes the cover of his sword. He begins to beat her. She lie upon the ground. They drag Amir al-Mu'mineen towards the masjid. Zahra alayha salam, when she wakes up, she turns to Fadda. She says, Fadda, where is Ali? She says to her that they have taken Ali to the masjid. Zahra, forgetting her wounds, one hand on her ribs, one hand on the wall of Medina, Zahra makes her way towards the masjid. She enters the masjid to see a sword upon the neck of Amir al-Mu'mineen. She calls out, Khallu ibn Ammi, oh, let my cousin go. Nobody listens to Zahra. Again she calls out, Khallu ibn Ammi, let my cousin go. No one listens. Zahra for the last time says, if you don't let Ali go, I will pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to curse you. Amir al-Mu'mineen turns to Salman, says, Salman, tell Zahra to go back home. If she curses these people, Allah will bring the day of judgment forward. Salman goes to Sayyida. He says, Sayyida, Amir al-Mu'mineen has requested that you return home. She says, Salman, how can I return home when Ali is in this state? He says to her, Sayyida, Ali himself is saying to you to return home. Zahra returns back. But those days that she was alive, those days Zahra was bedridden, unable to stand. She would lie on her bed, her children looking towards her. Imam al-Hussein coming. But they said that Zahra alayha salam nahilatul jism. She had become frail. She had become weak. Until that day, when she sends Amir al-Mu'mineen to the masjid, sends Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein away. She says to Asma, Asma, until you hear my tasbih from inside the room, know that I am alive. But Asma, my tasbih stops. Know that I have left this world and gone towards my father Rasulullah. Asma says, I paced outside the room of Sayyida. I could hear her tasbih. At one moment the tasbih stopped. I called out, Ya Sayyidati wa Mawlati. There was no reply. I called out, Ya Bint Rasulillah. There was no reply. I went inside the room and saw that the soul of Zahra had left her body. I left the room thinking, how is it that I will tell Amirul Mu'mineen? How will I tell Hassanain alayhimus salam? Says at that moment Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein entered into the room. They came into the house. Asma says, I approached them. They said, Asma, where is our mother? Asma says, I told them your mother is sleeping. They said, Asma, this is not usually the time when our mother rests. Asma says, I tried to distract them. Will you have something to eat? They said, you know, we don't eat without our mother Asma. At that moment, Imam al-Hassan runs into the room. He sees the lifeless body of his mother lying there. He calls out, oh Hussein, come quickly. Our mother has left us. Imam al-Hussein runs inside the room. Imam al-Hassan throws himself on the chest of his mother Zahra. Imam al-Hussein runs. He places his cheek on the feet of his mother. He calls out, Ya Ummah, Kallimini. Oh mother, speak to me. Ana Hussein, and I'm your Hussein. Mother, speak to me. قبل أن يفارق روحي من جسدي, before my soul leaves my body. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the sake of these tears to forgive the sins of our parents. Oh Allah, those of our parents that are alive, give them long lives. Those of our parents that have left this world, give them a place next to Ali Muhammad in Jannah. Oh Allah, those who are ill, give them shifa'ah. Those who are in debt, clear their debts. Those who are in education, make them successful. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on the ziyarah to Imam al-Hussein this year and every year. Ya Allah, give us tawfiq to go on Hajj and Umrah this year and every year. Ya Allah, keep safe the Shia of Ali Muhammad around the world. Ya Allah, hasten the reappearance of the Imam of our time and allow us to be amongst his true muqtadreen, Maarif-e-Islam.